The Browns have made their two final selections for the 2024 NFL Draft in round number 7. So we're going to recap both of those picks for you guys here. Myles Harden, the cornerback out of South Dakota at 227. And then another player from the Buckeye State, this time from Cincinnati. It's Jowon Briggs at pick 243. Yet another defensive lineman for Jim Schwartz to get his hands on. So before we get too in-depth on both of these selections, which, by the way, despite being 7th rounders, I like these picks a lot, actually. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a lot of content coming your way after the draft, and we're closing in on 35,000 subscribers. So if you have not subbed yet, please go ahead and do so. Now let's start with the first pick they made in round number 7, Myles Harden, cornerback out of South Dakota. He's from Southeast Florida, so similar to a lot of Browns players, we have a bit of a pipeline going, like Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Jerry Jeudy. 5'10", 195 pounds. He was a 4-year starter, by the way, for South Dakota. Last year, in 13 games, he recorded 4 tackles for loss, had an interception, 46 tackles, all things considered, 7 pass breakups. That one interception, by the way, came against the Missouri Tigers. So the only time he played against some like real competition, no offense to whatever conference South Dakota is in, he came up with a big play. So I like the pick a lot for the Browns. I mentioned it in the last video I did that Andrew Berry is always going to go invest and reinvest in cornerstone positions like pass rusher, cornerback, wide receiver. So I'm not surprised that even though the Browns have a lot of depth at corner, they still went to it in the draft. Now, here's what Dane Brugler from The Athletic had to say on the South Dakota player. Harden doesn't offer ideal length or long speed, but he plays quick, confident, and is a roughneck competitor. With NFL quality fluidity and ball skills, he can handle coverage duties from multiple techniques and has the traits to earn a starting nickel job as a rookie. So this could be a slight pick for the future for the Browns, looking at Greg Newsome and whether or not they pick up his 5th-year option. And even if they do, that only locks him in for an additional season. So they have Cam Mitchell, the 5th-round pick from Northwestern last year. But we've seen these Browns corners like Newsome and Denzel Ward pick up injuries, even Cam Mitchell last year. So to have good depth at a very quality and important position is always something I can get behind. So how would you grade the pick? Give it an A, B, C, D, or F. I know it's round number 7, but for me, I'm pretty upbeat about this pick. I like this pick a lot more than some earlier picks teams have made. So I'll give it a solid B grade. Now, as for their next selection, that was defensive tackle out of Cincinnati, Jowon Briggs. I'm actually a lot more upbeat about this pick than even the previous one. So we're going to unpack the Briggs selection in just a moment. But first, I do have to fill everyone in on our wonderful sponsor today, which is Game Time. If you're trying to catch a playoff Cavs game, a playoff hockey game, a concert, or any other sporting event in your local area, download the Game Time app and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Now, I put all that information already in the comments and description of today's video, but Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the best place to find last-minute seats. So once again, download the Game Time app, use promo code CHATSPORTS, C-H-A-T Sports, for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to Game Time for supporting us here at Chat Sports throughout the NFL Draft. Now, the Jowon Briggs pick, I'm pretty optimistic about this pick being more than just some random 7th rounder that we never remember. One, I think if Briggs was a UDFA, he may have gone somewhere else because, well, the Browns are pretty loaded at defensive tackle, so there wouldn't be an easy spot for him to rise the depth chart. But I think this is the type of pick that you could see actually sneak on to the 53-man roster. He's 300-plus pounds, and he ran a 5-second 40-yard dash at his pro day. He was not invited to the combine. But still, 5-second 40-yard dash, 300-plus pounds. Oh, and by the way, he was a 5-year starter pretty much for the Cincinnati Bearcats. 23 years old. He'll turn 24. What do you know? He shares a birthday theory with a previous Browns draft pick, I believe. But nevertheless, He had 6 sacks last year for the Bearcats, and he's 300 plus pounds and in pretty good athletic shape. Yeah, I can warm up to this pick for sure. Here's what Dane Brugler had to say. Briggs lacks ideal length, and his rush talent is a work in progress. But his mix of one gap quickness and power could earn him a depth spot. Now, he has him down as a 7th round of priority free agent, and that's essentially where he ended up going at pick 243. But we're seeing 2 picks now on the defensive line where I don't think you should read too much into 7th round picks for what the Browns' big master plan is at a certain position. But I do think the Browns are recognizing that it's tough to live off of 1 year, 2 year free agent signings at the defensive tackle spot. They drafted Siaka Ika last year. They went defensive line earlier in the draft. And now they go it with a 243 overall selection with Jowon Briggs. So overall, I'm a fan of this pick for the Browns. I like both of these picks for Cleveland. I mean, you look back what picks they made earlier in the draft. Mike Hall was their selection at pick 54. So now they've gone with 2 Ohio defensive tackles. They get their first corner of the draft. The only maybe surprise, I would say, is that they didn't draft a single offensive tackle, which to me signals they are fully expecting and preparing that their offensive tackles will be healthy for NFL Week 1, and they see a bit of a future with at least 2 of those 3 tackles. The other position I thought they would take would be running back, and that was not a group that they went after in this draft. It wasn't a very good running back draft class, but I guess the Browns have a lot more internal optimism about Nick Chubb's return date, handcuffed with they like Jerome Ford and they like Deontay Foreman. And there's probably a decent mixture of they didn't really like their running backs in this draft class and they didn't want to reach on one. Now, that's going to do it for us on this edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Make sure to like the video if you love the Cleveland Browns and you're excited for the upcoming 2024 season. Hit the like button down below. We're also going to have another video coming out in just a few short, like an hour probably, of my entire 7-round draft grades, which I'll do after the draft is over. So subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can see all my way too early and premature and ridiculous draft grades for the 2024 Cleveland Browns draft class.